Hello everyone, welcome back to Showcase. It has returned, and with a new series. The voted most popular on my channel at the time of that vote, the Bloodborne. So this will be a retrospective series. So, you're probably wondering, damn ST, 20 minutes and 34 seconds? That's a long video to cover just one weapon. But you'll understand if you didn't see an introduction video. But let's move on from that. For the first weapon, I decided I'm going to tackle the first three beginner weapons. And I'm going to tackle probably one of the more commonly used one, the Hunter's Axe. Well, it's the Hunter Axe, but Hunter's Axe is probably better terminology. So yes, it's a very basic starter weapon. Now let's go on to the description. One of the trick weapons of the workshop, commonly used on the hunt. Retains the quality of an axe, but offers a wider palette, I believe I pronounced it right, palette of attacks by transforming. Boasts a heavy blunt attack leading to a high rally potential, which I don't think I mentioned properly what rally is in my introduction video. Rally is simply the process of getting your health back after you lost a bit. Okay, moving on. No matter the pests, beasts are no more than beasts. Some choose the axe to play the part of executioner. Which is kind of what you're doing. Because in Bloodborne, lore-wise, you're killing the sick. That's what it is, you're killing the sick. Everyone's been afflicted with disease that turns them into werewolf-like creatures. So they're not, no one's really pertainingly evil, but they're all driven mad. So it's a bit of a moral gray ground if you kind of think of it like that, but no matter. Going on to visually, the basic axe, well, it is what it is, exactly that. Although the size of it is by far beyond wood chopping. This is meant for executing people with, chopping off limbs, or hacking through armor, although there's no metal armor per se in really Bloodborne. But yes. Strangely, it's wrapped in bandages, possibly to give a bit more comfort and grip. It means little when you think of the trick weapon variant, but also there's a spike protruding on the end of it, which is actually used in the combos. So it's both an axe and a bit of a makeshift spear in some sense, though the spear seems a bit lackluster if you think of it, but compared to its nearby relative of the axe head. But still, it is still there and is still rather useful. Although the weight of this weapon would be far beyond wielding with one hand. This would be a clearly two-handed battle axe in any real-life situation. As for the Razor aesthetics, it is far too damaged to really make anything useful of it. Engravings are pointless for battle. Now, when you use a trick weapon, behold, it turns to a halberd, or a polearm, depending on what you want to call it. I'm going to go with halberd, because it reminds me more of a halberd itself. So the handle extends to show that there's a large extending rod. Now, structurally, speaking of how structural integrity of this weapon would be now compromised by having a thin tube on the inside, but no matter. Let's put that aside. Now, the idea of taking an axe and turning it into halberd increased the force dramatically. You're now swinging this from farther away yourself with much faster speed and force. The spear point on your, or the spear head on your now shaft is much more palatable than that of a spike on the end of an axe. It is a spike at the end of a halberd. Two very different things when you weigh them both together. But interesting nonetheless. And it makes sense. Like this could work. But I won't say it works against the beasts of what's in Yharnam. Probably not. Let's move on though. Going on to the stats of the Hunter's Axe, or Hunter's Halberd, whichever one to call it now. Alright, going on to base physical damage, you got 100, pretty much. Now we're at 98, but it's close to 100. And for bonus damage, I get 95, which goes to half of that, almost, with my skill and strength. Okay, we also got no damage in any other category. Going on to the special stats, we can see its durability is 250, which is standard. It doesn't use any quick bullets. And in terms of special attack, it doesn't really offer anything new. It's standard damage. Now going on to the attribute bonus, we see a D for strength, an E for skill, and a D for arcane. Now arcane's kind of like magic-wise, and that's a bit of a funny thing on this weapon. It doesn't boast any magical attack naturally. You'll have to augment it and change that, which I'll show later what it looks like, but strangely placed. The attribute requirements is very laughable, a 9 strength and 8 skill. You'll easily get this. You'll have this pretty much starting off, almost guaranteed. It's been a while since I restarted the game, so I'm not sure if you get that right out of the gate, but you get it very quickly out of the gate. Let's move on to animations, which will start with the basic axe first. Now, the basic attack is kind of what you expect. It's axe chopping and dropping onto the ground. Kind of like Dark Souls a lot. Power attack, you're doing the chopping. Straight chopping, nothing new. It's always been chopping. Now for the power attack, you hold your attack and you drop it on. It's now a powerful chop. Hopefully there's any beneath that axe when you do that. When you do a dash attack, you see you do upward slash with your axe. Power attack, while rolling, you get the basic chop again. The back step gives a jab at the spear point, and the power attack version of that back step is another chop. So yeah. Then you got the plunge attack here, which is just another over the top chop. Now, going to the trick version, you see it's a jab from the halberd. Now, that's what it looks like when you do a plane transformation. Now, the basic attack is very high, wide swings with jabbing and overhead chops, so much more varied now. The power attack is more chopping, just with a halberd. Now, the power attack is pretty much like a double swing. This will knock down most opponents to my knowledge, at least not huge opponents. Alright, and you got the rolling at jab, which is kind of like a spear point jab. The both other basic attacks, well, you got the power version, which is just another overhead chop. So much chopping. So much chopping indeed. Now, you got the back step, which is a bit weird. It comes like you drag the axe towards you on your opponent there. But no matter. Now for the extra move, which is the L2 maneuver, which normally is your second hand weapon, or it's on your opposite hand, but no matter. And then the final attack, which is switching back to plain axe head, which is just a heavy chop. How appropriate. Now onto the upgrade. Alright, so upgrading the plain Hunter's Axe, and you can see here between the Hunter's Axe and the Uncanny Hunter's Axe is only a change of gems. So no point upgrading both, I'll just stick with one, which will be the plain Hunter Axe. Okay, so going on to it, you can see that the physical damage goes up slightly. It was 90, for like 95, remember that. And the bonus damage was 45. And the tree bonus, nothing seemed to be increased just yet. Going on the second upgrade. Now on to third upgrade. Going on to the fourth upgrade, still no change. We're going to unlocking our gem slots. Oh, there you go. On the fifth upgrade, the attribute for strength goes to a C. So that's something. Alright, last two upgrades. And now I'll be using my few blood chunks for this upgrade. And we got some decent damage now. We've almost doubled our damage. Well, bonus-wise, we have doubled it. For base attack, almost doubled. So, thanks to that C for attribute strength, you get a lot more out of it. Definitely so. Alright, but moving on from that, going on to some blood gem fortification. Now, this thing has arcane scaling, so we're going to look for a gem here. Let's see, it's somewhere in my pile. I've never organized these. Oh, I'll just pass by one. Let's see. There we go. So an arcane damage gets 61 damage, and then bonus goes to 100, so I lose damage in the end, or total AR is dropping though. So it's better to go with base damage for my build. Moving on to the performance test, I'll be testing both weapons on the same opponents. Now for the axe, it has some obvious disadvantages. It's slow and has short range, but doesn't have the proper attack power to make up for that. Against the villager, it is okay. And let me stress that this is the first enemy you encounter. Well, not the first, but first casual enemy that you know, these guys respawn. So the axe didn't do so great, but the halberd definitely changes things up. You got that extra range and that extra power, and the power attack sends people flying. Even killing some of these guys very easily. Where the power attack or power charge attack for the standard axe takes a lot of time and it's incredibly short range. So when people use this weapon, they usually only use the halberd variant. They aren't too keen on using the axe version, unless they really want their pistol out. But oh well. It still does damage, but still the halberd variant definitely takes the cake in mobs and crowd control, clearly. But is it totally useless? No, it's just more desirable to use the halberd. But no, that's enough villagers being slaughtered. Moving on. We'll go on to the Executioner, a much more threatening enemy. Now, damage-wise, the axe does around 316 2 hits. Now let's go with halberd. Now, as it should make sense, 2 hits do 418, which is 100 more damage. So halberd does more damage by nature, at least against this enemy. But you can see a power attack there did stagger the Executioner. but the halberd version does not. So there's a bit of a pros and cons with both. Although when you're facing groups, always go halberd, and maybe even big opponents too. Who knows? It all depends on you. Now facing these little armored dwarves, I don't care what they're called, you can see that they have a good heavy HP pool, and the halberd doesn't, or the axe version, sorry, doesn't do a whole lot of damage to them. These guys are mainly distraction, hence why they're very easy to kill, because you don't really fight back. But I know something interesting. Yep. When you charge up the axe head on a small opponent, it doesn't really work so great on medium opponents, but on a small opponent, it staggers them. Good for good parry or ricochet, which is like an instant kill for most opponents. This is on a second playthrough, and I'm still wrecking foes just like that. So that is a very nice little positive there. Very nice indeed. Although I'll stress, only works on small opponents, as I'll demonstrate on a larger opponent here. Which is kind of like the armored dwarf, except no longer a dwarf and has an axe and she's angry. So power attack, knocked her over though. Didn't stagger her, but knocked her over. Alright. The other version, the power attack for medium-sized opponents, still knocks them down, which is good. And plenty of range to boot, so it's pretty good in that regard, in my opinion. So which one's better? That's hard to tell. They both have better uses, but I think the halberd, mainly because of its range. Now for my next opponent, a Shadow of Yharnam. These guys are kind of like the Black Knights of this game. There aren't too many of them, but they're rather challenging, because they never fight alone. Well, they rarely fight alone, I should say. Now, against these guys, they're very nimble. They don't carry any armor, per se, but they're very, very nimble. And that's where the axe head, likes to play an axe, just fails. It's way too slow, way too short range against these guys. They will slaughter you. The halberd levels the playing field. I won't say it gives me a heavy advantage, it levels the playing field. It's still slow, but it has enough damage, and I can hit both of them usually at once. Usually, but still. In terms of their blades and how they maneuver, they have just as much range as I do, and it shows that I can easily be slaughtered if I'm not careful. Going through health vials here, blood vials like crazy. But still, if you do a power attack, it does knock them over, and you can easily dispatch them afterwards. But now for another Shadow of Yharnam, which wields a mace of sorts. But even then, with such a much shorter weapon and slower attack speeds, he's still much faster than me. So trying to get in between his attacks with this axe head is just incredibly difficult. Unless you're excellent at dodging. But not everyone is excellent at dodging. So yeah, in the end, halberd yet again. So, the plain axe, as we know, just fails in maneuverability, and that's a huge deal in Bloodborne. Now for the final test, against two giants. One with the plain axe and one with the halberd. Alright. The giants, they're well, kind of like more like giant ogres, but they're not slow, as you see. They're quite nimble. You know, if you're not careful, anyway. And they can easily knock me over, but that said, I can't really knock them over so easily. Not with this axe. I could maybe get a moment of staggerness, but not enough for a ricochet or anything like that. But oh well. So, plain axe, not really the best. It does a job, just very messily. Makes a right down mess of everything. So let's try the halberd. Something much larger. Again, the further you are away from your opponent when you strike them, the better, because that's less dodging. Now, in terms of damage, it seems to be not too much of a big difference, but when you do a power attack, there's the big difference right there, and it's easier to line up. Trying to do a power attack with that small axe wouldn't have worked so easily, because of the range. So, halberd obviously wins all of this. That's obvious, but it's to be expected, because it is a trick weapon after all. Okay, let's move on to the pros and cons, which I'll be doing pros and cons for both weapons, or both types of this weapon, the axe and the halberd. Okay, going on the pros. Has good stagger potential. Definitely can stagger many enemies, both medium size and small. It's also a decent damage output. Decent. And it is one of the easiest weapons to acquire, because you can usually choose at the beginning of the game or get it quickly afterwards to the shop. Cons. It has incredibly short range. Well, not the shortest range, but still very short. It's a very slow weapon. There's not many weapons that are slower, and when they are slower, they're usually a lot bigger. Yeah. Alright. That kind of covers the cons. I'll go on to the score for the Hunter's Axe. Damage, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. It's beginner's damage, but it's on the low end, at least the axe variant. Reach, a 3 out of 10. I was considering a 2, but there are shorter weapons out there. And even your fists are a weapon. Animation, a 2 out of 10. Now I'm not saying of new or fresh animations, all weapons are pretty much different in this game. But I'm rating these animations as they are useful. And for the plain axe, it's too slow. Far too slow to be useful in most involved environments and against a lot of opponents. Bonus-wise, I'll get a 5 out of 10. It was a good bonus. Good bonus for what you get out of it. Miscellaneous, I'll give it 3 out of 10. Because chances are if you have this weapon, you're going to use the halberd version almost every time. It's better, it has better range, and you can knock opponents clean flat off their feet. Some even larger ones can be staggered by that power attack. So yeah, the plain Hunter's Axe, a 17 out of 50. It's bad. Well, it's a beginner's weapon, so it can be forgiven. But also the halberd's much better though. Speaking of which, let's move on to that. Now, moving on to the Hunter's Halberd, well, only thing that will remain the same is pretty much the bonus score, since both the halberd and the axe share the same weapon score in terms of bonus damage. Anyway, so for pros, you got pretty much a much longer reach with better attack damage. It's also good for crowd control as well, with large sweeping attacks. And the charge attack knocks most opponents off their feet, which is incredibly helpful. The cons? Well, you lose the effect of your left-hand weapon, so you're effectively just using one weapon. That is a downside. And that's kind of like the only major con. That's where a lot of two-hand weapons will falter with their cons. Alright, so going on to damage. The score on damage, anyway, is 6 out of 10. Much better than the single-handed axe. You get 100 more damage per hit, for every 2 hits. That's pretty significant. Reach, a 6 out of 10. It's not the longest reach, but it has certainly good reach. Animation, I give a 7 out of 10. Good length, good amount of attacks, and nice variety too, and they're good for crowd control, so definitely very helpful. Bonus, same as the other axes I mentioned, 5 out of 10. Miscellaneous, I'll give this a 6 out of 10. Of beginner weapons, this one will be the most useful in the beginning, in my opinion. There are other weapons out there that are good for crowd control, but for the beginning, this is an excellent weapon. So, in total, I give the Hunter's Halberd 30 out of 50. It's a great starter weapon, and it's even a great weapon overall. You can take it through the majority of the game with no problems. Okay, time for conclusion. Now, conclusion's not going to be ever something you should take too seriously, but what I think about it is it's an alright weapon. And that's all it is, it's alright. It's a beginner weapon. It's still a decent weapon you can use throughout the game, but it's alright. Endgame, just grab something else, something a little more diverse, maybe more powerful, but anyway. Now, I'm going to extend this episode a bit longer. Then I'm going to ask you for your input. Do you think this format was okay? Do you think there's anything I do better? Do you think there's anything I missed? Make sure to put in the comments. I will sometimes make mistakes. Even then, with all the information I got, I believe I covered everything decently. Like I mentioned earlier in the introduction video, I am not the best Bloodborne player. I'm much more prolific at Dark Souls. But Bloodborne's kind of like the related cousin. Not a distant cousin, a related cousin. But anyway, I think that's everything I need to say. Hope you guys enjoyed my return. I'd like to thank you all for watching and see you guys next time. Many more videos from this series to come. See you then, and take care out there.